What's going on, man? This is Coach Jack, man. Welcome back to another episode of the R.E.U.P podcast where we talk about life in the past, what's happening in the present, and what will happen in the future, what can happen in the future in this thing we call life of football, right? So today, I want to talk about something that, a little bit of outside noise. I want to talk about something that's called external factors. Um, so, a lot of times when we get into this thing from regardless of what age that you start in, from an athlete standpoint and even from a coaching standpoint, there are people and things that can get inside of your head, and those thought patterns that aren't quite developed, or if they are developed, then they can be intruded upon, right? And so those type of things, the external factors, so to speak, that people go through, man, it's tough. It is really tough, especially when you have things that you have people you got to take care of, right? You have people that are dependent on you, things that you have to take care of, not just from a family standpoint, but, from a personal standpoint, where it be bills, you know, your significant others, girlfriend, boyfriends, kids, in certain situations. Not to mention that, me personally, I deal with a bunch of student athletes, like college kids. They got schoolwork that they need to take care of, right? And understanding and balancing, all that stuff can and is hard. It's really, 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 really hard, right? Um, so all this all this is, just one of those things where we have to find ways to balance. We got to find ways to understand how to get stuff done in an efficient manner. All right. So, um, from that perspective, what does it look like for those that have those extra voices ringing in their ears? Right? What does it look like for those that, who want and mean well, but just seem to can't get out of their own way, but not necessarily their fault, because we do have those instances. We do have those things where they don't want to do it, but the people behind them are pushing them to do it. Here's what I'll say to that. Ultimately, this is your life. This is your life. And the things that you want to do and you want to accomplish, and when it's all said and done, the person, the people, the thing, the whoever is in your ear, they're not gonna have to live with the consequences of the actions. You are, all right. So, and I get it. It's okay to the Bible does say seek wise counsel, right? But what is wise counsel? What are who are the wise counsel? Well, number one, obviously you take everything in prayer, right? But those that if it don't look like how you want it to look, if those that you are seeking counsel from, if they aren't doing or haven't done or haven't been through the thing that you want to go through, you probably shouldn't be listening to them. And the reason why you shouldn't be listening to them is because they have about as much experience as you have. If not, matter of fact, you might have more because you're actually going through it, right? And there are some times where people do have um wise things to say, but that's up for your discernment. Like you have to have the discernment to say, yeah, this is smart, or I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt, or just not listen to it, period. Right? You have to sit back and you have to analyze what are the external factors, what is the voices that I hear in my head, and are they going to be beneficial for me in the long run? Right? And if they are, great. If they're not, get rid of it. and get rid of it fast. Because if you don't, it will be like poison in the garden. One flower gets poisoned, then the rest of them will follow, right? So one thought gets poisoned, and then the rest of them will follow. And then 10, 15 years from now, you'll be sitting looking back like, man, I wish I wouldn't. When you have the opportunity to correct it right now, you correct it right now. There's no, you know, there's no what ifs, right? It's only, whew, I'm glad I didn't, right? Or, ooh, I'm glad I did, right? Because there are some instances where you do seek wise counsel, and those people do know what they're talking about, and they do have your best interest at heart. But ultimately, just because somebody has your best interest at heart, it is still your decision. So the things that you putting forth in your decision need to come from within you. It's okay to have external factors talking to you, but you have to have the discernment what's good, what's bad, and what's just flat out ignorant, right? So if you can't if you can't discern from it, then it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real tough, right? So, but not only just the factors of people in your ear, but it's the thoughts behind it's your own thoughts too, right? So you have situations that happen, whether something tragic occurs, or something happened where your mind just kind of all over the place a little bit, and you can't really focus the way that you want to focus to get the job done. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say. You have to learn how to check it at the door. If you don't check it at the door, it's going to bleed in for everything else, right? If you had, you got a phone call right before a meeting, right? You got a phone call before a meeting, and you can't lock in during that meeting. Well, guess what? When you're actually going out there on the field or on the court or wherever, when you're actually going out there, you're not going to be able to execute what was said in the meeting because you weren't locked in. Your mind was somewhere else. So you have to learn how to check that stuff at the door, right? And kind of separate it a little bit. You have to separate. And if you don't separate it right now, it's going to continue to bleed over. And then next thing you know, you're going to be something that we like to call a slump. You're in a slump, it's hard to get out of those because it's like snowball effect, man. One thing rolls into the next, and then into the next, and then into the next, and then next thing you know, you're not the player that you once were. You're not the athlete that you once were because you let an external factor creep in, right? And this time the external factor is your own intrusive thoughts, right? Your own thoughts can betray you. You have to think on a positive reinforcement type deal, right? And if there's something that, if it's something that doesn't or isn't beneficial for you or to you and to the work that you're trying to do, then you got to take it, you got to throw it away, you got to flush it, and then you got to move on and keep going because the positive thought process can get you so many things that you never thought was possible. But if you let those negative thoughts, if you let those, negative thoughts turn into negative reactions, then you get a negative result, right? We all know that. We know that, but as people, man, we tend to dwell on those type of things. We tend to allow those type of things to take place because if we're coming from an emotional standpoint, right, and that's the other thing, you letting the emotional part of life take over, right? When we are emotional people, but we can't dwell and live in emotion, especially, athletics. Here's the thing about athletics and football specific, because that's the world I'm in right now. Uh, we all thrive on emotions, right? The things go up and down, and all just pure chaos. The world of college football right now, pure chaos has always been that way. Fan support, we love it. It can be high, it can be low. You're winning is high, you're losing is low, right? And that's pure emotion. But if you let that emotion dictate the outcome, then everything will be in chaos, right? It, the only chaos it should be is controlled by you, because you are the person that's ultimately responsible for the emotional chaos. You're responsible for it, because you can't allow something to come in and just destroy whatever it is that you've built. You can be the ultimate player, the ultimate athlete, and under one emotional decision, ruin it. We've seen it time and time again. You cannot allow your emotions to dictate. You cannot allow your emotions to dictate your results. Because if you allow emotion to take over, emotion will ruin you. And you have to make sure that you keep it in check. I'm not saying that you don't have to have emotion. I'm not saying that you can't have emotion, because that's not humanly possible. We are all built with some type of emotion. But you got to check your emotions at the door, and you got to understand that, hey, this is what I need to get from point A to point B, and this can't come with me, right? Now, celebrate. If you don't succeed in where the area you're trying to go to, if you fall short, right? I'm not gonna say fail. If you fall short, then you learn your lessons, and you take that, the pain of that loss, and you utilize it, for your gain, but you do it under control, and you make sure that distraction, that emotional turmoil, or whatever the case may be, you make sure that you use that as leverage. You use that as something that you can rebound from, and then keep going, keep moving forward, right? So, you talk about mental, you talk about physical, emotional, right? And then, I'm a firm believer that, you take it to God, right? You take it to God. And, but like I said, faith without works is dead. I always say that. Say it in the Bible. Uh, Faith without works is dead. So if you take it to God and you believe in Him, but you also still got to do the work, still got to put forth the effort, still got to do the work to make sure you're right, up here, in here, and all around the body, right? Up here, your mind, and your spiritual, your emotional, your mind, your will, and your emotions have to line up, and you have to be ready to go in all aspects, right? So all external factors, and the other one, injury. Injury is, one of those deals in athletics where it's like, all right, we've all kind of been through it. You hear the cliche, are you hurt or are you injured? Well, they both hurt. And it feels like, yeah, we know what an injury and what a hurt is, man. But that's another thing that can really affect who you are as an athlete, right? And you got to be strong enough to say, hey, if I'm able to come back from this, then I am going to come back better than ever, right? And that's the external factor of performance that you have to be dialed into. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. You get your mind right, and your body needs to follow. Period, point blank. Don't let the external factors ruin who you are or what you bring to the table, because who you are and what you bring to the table is enough, but you got to make it enough, and you got to make people believe, and you got to make people know who you are is the best, right? Is the man, is the girl, whatever the case may be, whatever sport you're doing right now. uh you got to believe it. You got to believe it. You have to raise expectation until proven. They keep doing it over and over and over again. All right. So don't let the external factors derail you. Don't let them, you know, take you away from what it is that you're trying to do, what it is that you want to accomplish. Go out there and go win. It's your boy, Coach Jack. This is another episode of the R.E.U.P podcast. Thank you for listening. And remember, champions never let nothing phase them. Win it out, rise to the occasion. R.E.U.P.